All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a look at something you might have heard about recently. It's been kind of blowing up the tech world since like March 2025, this whole thing called vibe coding.
Yeah, seems like everybody's talking about it. Really changing the game, the way people are building software.
So vibe coding, it's a pretty catchy name, right? But what exactly is it? Well, from what we've been reading, the term is being attributed to this, how'd they put it, a tech wizard named Andre. The basic gist is that you're using AI to write most, if not all, of the code for your apps. Less hands-on coding for us humans, I guess.
Right. You give the AI the general idea, the vibe, if you will,
Yeah.
and it figures out how to translate that into actual working code. Pretty wild, huh? It really changes the whole dynamic between humans and computers and software development.
And we're already seeing some real-world examples. Like you've probably heard of Peter Levels, this indie hacker. Our notes say he vibe coded this, and I'm quoting directly here, a hilariously crappy real-time flight simulator MMO using JavaScript. Now, crappy aside, the guy actually leveraged his Twitter following and started making money from in-game ads. So it shows you the potential, but the fact that it was hilariously crappy is kind of telling, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. It shows you the speed, the accessibility that AI-generated code can bring. I mean, Levels was able to whip up this app and get it out there super fast. And he already had an audience, so he could capitalize on that. But yeah, the crappy part does point to some potential downsides that we should probably talk about.
Yeah, definitely downsides. Like you're seeing this whole wave of what some are calling slothware, basically.
Huh?
Tons of these half-baked apps that are just popping up all over the internet. Feels like quantity over quality.
Oh, yeah, big time. Since it's so easy to generate code now, we're getting flooded with apps that might not be as well thought out or polished as something a human developer would build. It's a huge concern.
And speaking of concerns, there's this prediction from the CEO of Anthropic, I think it was. He's saying that in just 12 months, so by next year, pretty much all code will be written by AI. That's a pretty bold claim, and I'm sure it's making a lot of developers nervous.
Yeah, I mean, it really makes you wonder, right? What's going to happen to human developers? What are the risks of relying so heavily on AI? And how can we make sure we're using this technology responsibly?
So that's exactly what we want to unpack today. What can go wrong with vibe coding? And more importantly, how can you avoid those mistakes? Okay, first things first. We need to talk about the difference between coding and programming. You might think they're the same thing, but our sources make a pretty clear distinction.
So what they're saying is that coding, the actual act of translating logic into instructions for a computer, is becoming more and more automated. They even went so far as to say that your grandma's printer, with a little help from GPT-4 or Claude, could probably spit out some code these days. It's becoming less and less of a challenge to just generate the syntax.
So it's like the mechanical part of coding is becoming, uh, I don't know, more accessible. But then there's programming, which is something else entirely. It's described as an art and science that requires creativity, experience, and even a bit of intuition. It's not just about stringing together lines of code. It's about solving problems, designing systems, making decisions that affect the whole project.
Right, and they made a great point about how experienced programmers spend a lot of their time deleting code, refactoring, optimizing. It's about having a deeper understanding of how things work, something AI isn't quite there yet.
Yeah. And that brings us to the next point, the potential risks of just blindly using vibe coding without thinking things through. There's this cautionary tale in the materials about this indie hacker who launched a sauce product using entirely AI-generated code and then got completely hacked because they didn't really understand what the AI had created.
Yeah, that's a real danger. If you're just copying and pasting AI code without knowing how it works, you could be opening yourself up to all sorts of security vulnerabilities.
And the consequences for that guy were pretty rough. He lost his whole business and ended up having to get a job at Popeyes. Yikes. I mean, that really hits home right.
Oh yeah, it's a wake-up call for sure. AI can be a great tool, but it doesn't mean you can just check out and let it do everything. You got to be involved, you got to understand what's going on. So our sources came up with these 3 golden rules of responsible vibe coding. They sound like a good place to start.
So let's break those down. Rule number 1, tech stack selection. They recommend sticking with popular and simple tech stacks like React, Express, Tailwind, or Dino. Why is that so important when you're working with AI?
Well, think of it like this. These large language models, they learn from massive data sets of code. The more popular a tech stack is, The more examples the AI has to learn from, the better it'll be at generating good code for that stack.
So it's like giving your AI tutor the best textbooks and study guides, right?
Right.
They even admitted to kind of liking Svelte and Vue.js themselves, but for pure AI assistance, sticking to the mainstream seems to be the way to go.
Yeah, makes sense. Newer frameworks might have their advantages, but the AI might not be as familiar with them, so the code it generates might be less reliable.
Rule number 2 is all about version control mastery, specifically using Git. Now, most developers are probably already doing this, but why is it especially important with vibe coding?
Because AI can make mistakes. It can introduce errors. It can even delete code accidentally. Having a good version control system like Git lets you roll back changes, track what's been done, and basically keep a history of your project.
So it's like having an undo button for your entire project, just in case your AI coding buddy has a little mishap.
Exactly. It's about staying in control. Even when you're letting the AI do a lot of the work, you always want to be able to go back and see what happened, especially if something goes wrong.
And the third rule, human as product manager. This is about rethinking the role of the human developer in a world of AI-generated code.
Right. Instead of writing every line of code, the human becomes more of a director, guiding the AI, giving it high-level instructions, and making sure it's building what you actually want.
They had this great analogy in the materials, something about the human being like a babysitter for an extremely talented but slightly reckless AI child. Paints a pretty funny picture.
It really does. And it's a good reminder that you can't just let the AI loose and expect it to build a perfect application. You got to be there to supervise, to provide context, and make sure it's staying on track.
Now, even if you follow all these rules, things can still go wrong. They use Peter Levels and his flight simulator as an example again. It seems like even successful vibe-coded projects can run into problems. Which brings us to the fact that there's more to software development than just, writing code.
Right. Right now, AI is really good at generating code snippets or even whole applications based on what you tell it to do. But things like software architecture, maintainability, security, scalability, those are areas where human experience and intuition are still really important.
So it's like the AI can make the bricks, but you still need a human architect to design the building and make sure it doesn't fall apart, right?
Exactly. AI is getting better at those more complex aspects, but we're not quite there yet.
Speaking of getting better, the AI tools they talked about are pretty impressive. IntelliJ's Junie and GitHub Copilot with VS Code, they can actually build entire applications based on ideas you explain to them. That's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it?
It really is. And they're constantly improving. They still make mistakes, of course, but they're learning so fast.
So this whole thing about AI making software development so easy, they compared it to smartphones and photography. Everyone can take pictures now, but that doesn't mean everyone's a professional photographer.
Right, exactly. It's the same with software. Just because you can build an app quickly doesn't mean it's going to be a good app.
And they used Uber as an example.
Yeah.
The Uber app is code, sure, but the whole Uber system involves things like logistics, customer service, payments, things that AI isn't really good at yet.
Yeah, there's still a need for human interaction, human judgment, human empathy in a lot of these real-world systems. AI can handle some of the tasks, but it can't replace everything.
So what does all this mean for the future of developers? They talk about these new roles emerging, the AI whisperer and the T-shaped developer.
Right. The AI whisperer is basically someone who's really good at talking to AI, at translating human ideas into something the AI can understand and execute.
So like an AI translator, but for software development, right?
Yeah, and the T-shaped developer is someone who has deep expertise in one specific area, but also has a broader understanding of the whole software development process. They can work with the AI, but they can also contribute their own specialized skills.
So they're like the bridge between the AI and the rest of the team.
Exactly. They can manage the AI, guide its work, but also do the things that the AI can't do yet.
Now, one of the concerns they raised was about innovation. If we start relying too much on AI, which is basically trained on existing solutions, does that mean we'll stop coming up with truly new ideas?
It's a valid concern. If we just let the AI do all the thinking, we might end up with a lot of the same old stuff, just slightly different.
They pointed out how human innovation has driven all the big shifts in technology, from desktop computers to the web to SaaS to the cloud. It's been humans pushing the boundaries, thinking outside the box.
Yeah, AI can help us refine those ideas, make them better, but we still need that human spark to come up with something truly new and different.
Before we wrap up, just a quick word from our sponsor, Grammarly. It's funny, it seems even more relevant now with all this talk about AI-generated code. The idea is that you can use Grammarly to make sure your written communication, whether it's emails, Slack messages, whatever, sounds human and not like it was written by a robot.
Yeah, that's pretty important, especially if we're going to be working more and more with AI. We don't want to start sounding like robots ourselves.
All right, so to sum it all up, this vibe coding thing, using AI to write code, it's definitely a game changer. But it's not a magic bullet. It comes with risks, and you got to be smart about how you use it.
The key is to remember that AI is a tool, a very powerful tool, but it's still just a tool. You're still the one in control. You're still the one making the decisions.
So for everyone listening out there, have you tried vibe coding yet? What do you think about the future of AI in software development? It's something worth thinking about.
It's a huge shift, and it's going to have a big impact on the way we work, the way we build things. It's exciting and a little bit scary at the same time.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. If you found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And one last thought to leave you with. If AI is going to be handling more and more of the coding, what are the truly unique problems that you're going to focus on solving? Until next time.